Everybody please stand for say a pledge, say a prayer. President, please pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for many blessings you've given us this day. Thank you for the sunshine, the beautiful weather. Look over us, guide us, help us make wise decisions for our county, and bless those who serve us. In His precious name we pray. Amen.
Yeah, maybe. Well, here, I'll give you an extra 6 inches.
Everybody had a chance to review the minutes and claims?
Yes, sir.
Any correction or revision?
Make a motion to approve.
Tosh made a motion, Rick second, all in favor say aye. Aye, motion carried. We had some ARP requests at the ARP meeting the other night. It was, for the smaller ones. You want to read them?
We had Pekin Betterment Community, $4,500, Salem Rotary, $4,250, Master Gardeners, $1,800, in Southern Indiana Search and Rescue, $15,000, and Clark had their, scanning project, $184,447.18.
And if we do them, did you total that out?
$206,167.18.
And from the balance we got left, what they are paying.
My suggestion would be to do the smaller ones, hold off on the clerk, and possibly the Southern Indiana to a different next.
So it was all approved by the ARP committee the other night. So that being said, go ahead and do the 4 smaller ones.
What were they again? Master Gardener, Salem Rotary, and who?
Pekin.
Betterment Club, or Betterment, yeah.
So those 3 only for now? I'll make a motion that we do those 3 for now. Master Gardener, Salem Rotary, Pekin Betterment.
10,800. Correct.
Thereabouts.
I'll second your motion.
Okay, Todd has made a motion, Rick second, all in favor say aye.
Right.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried. All right, we got Paul Owens from WTH, it's supposed to be here at 9:30. Rick, you come forward, please.
Don't have too many updates for you today. The Delaney Park Bridge, both footers have been poured, both walls are poured, now we're waiting on the deck. Give the wall a few days to cure out there, and then we're still on schedule. I'd say should be opened up maybe, in the next 2 weeks, possibly 3, weather permitting. And right now, the past few days we've been going over our budget. As you know, we budget middle of the year, so a lot of things have changed since July of last year. Almost everything price-wise has doubled. And the end result, I'd say, we'll lose at least 3 miles, 1 mile per district of paving, and that's at the minimum, just depends on how things go, but we're trying to get ahead of it and start cutting back now. But fuel prices have doubled, culvert prices have doubled, you name it, so. That's about it for me, we're just trying to stay ahead of it.
So you're saying how much?
I'm trying to shave off 300,000 now, but I'm starting with the 3 miles of paving, that'll get us, you know, around 200,000 saved. Let's see where else we can get a little.
You just take 3 out of college.
I can't talk about it right now.
You forget that you have to drive through the second to get home, because especially since the highway project going on out here.
You don't know. I'm at Lane this morning.
Oh.
And I think we're done with the snow, knock on wood. We'll give it a couple weeks and then switch our trucks over to get ready for paving.
And time changes, 1st of April?
Yeah, I believe it's I forget what that Monday is, but April 2nd or April 4th, however it works out. We'll go to 14th.
Have you got any new prices on asphalt or?
Not updated, I'm waiting, because it'll change again by then. So right before we start, I'll have to get a new price and figure from there. Because the way oil prices are changing, what's usually a monthly. You know, you can go by the monthly, but this far ahead, it's not gonna stay.
You know, they're not gonna stay back.
And I'm trying to keep fuel ordered in as fast as we can. You have to wait till it drops down and get a tanker load, but just as soon as it gets down to that level, I'm gonna order it in, because we all know it's only going one direction.
Old employee said the other night at the airport, fuel prices now, they commit by the hour, not by the day.
Right. Yeah, I don't think we're at the end of it yet. And I've instructed the guys to start watching where they park equipment, like road graders and things, to try to keep that in the back of their minds. Every time it gets up to this level, we start being a little more careful.
Have you heard anything on community crossings?
No, what I was told is sometime in March, they're supposed to announce, so that's what.
That's what I read, but we're running out of March here.
Right. And I'm hoping to hear good news there. That would definitely help.
Or anything on trucks?
The end of April, supposedly they'll all be here the end of April.
How's that on mowers?
Pretty good. We're gonna have a county auction sometime in the spring, and I think I've decided to keep the 3 bush hog side mowers as backup. We were gonna let those go, but the way parts are hard to get and mowers are hard to get, if we were to have some kind of major malfunction, we could fall back on those. So I better hang on to them.
That fuel tank. I don't know what to say. Steel's going up.
I'm just waiting on a green light, put it in the ground where it's at, or put it somewhere else, it doesn't matter to me, I just need to know.
I don't have an answer yet.
It takes 2 years to get it, right?
Yeah.
So,
I don't know if it's as easy as go ahead and get it on the way and then decide where to put it later. I don't know if that's where we're headed, I don't know if it's that easy. Go ahead.
why not?
Well, dimensions, you know. If you run into rock one place, I mean, I think we have to do a little exploring. Because say a 10,000 gallon tank, you can get that same tank in several different dimensions. And I'm not gonna say you couldn't make it work in another location, just add a little extra fill.
Could I suggest we decide definitely by next commissioners meeting? We still got some information we need to gather as to an alternate site. We've not heard back from Growth Partnership on price. But surely we can make a decision by the next meeting.
I think we should review it at the next meeting. I don't know that we're gonna have an answer for the next meeting.
Okay.
We're having a meeting Thursday.
Let me rephrase that. We're not going to decide today.
Yeah, we got rough partnership.
Well, we know we got a problem, and we know we're gonna have to solve it, but we don't know how to solve it yet.
Good answer.
Good enough. Should've been a car salesman.
We'll come back to that.
Also, we've made some improvements to Quarry Road. That's gonna be that unofficial detour, so we've done a little patching, some tree trimming out there, try to get it ready. I'm sure it's getting burned up today.
Yeah.
I saw they had it closed, so I'm sure it's getting a pretty good test. I bought you about all the time I can, I stuff to talk about.
Okay?
I'm through.
Anything else?
That's it for me.
You are gonna stick around?
Yeah, I've got a few notes here for the GIS.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you, Rick.
Tyler?
I do have an interlocal agreement for the riverboat revenue with Harrison County.
This is just, an annual renewal type thing, right?
Yeah.
Very good, sir.
Need a motion to accept the Karen Local Corporation agreement to share riverboat revenue. Rick made a motion.
Second.
Rod second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay. What? I'll watch you the day late. Sorry.
If you have time, Phil, I do have one more item I could discuss.
Yeah, go ahead.
Forgot it was in my folder, I had some pictures of the building.
Kristen, would you care to open that door over there? Chalk down there on the floor.
Sometimes the picture does a lot more good than actual talking about it. So, we discussed the plumbing issues we had, and when the building was built, everything was poured into a concrete slab. So over the years, all of the steel water lines have rusted in two, and the only way to replace those was to tear the office down, jackhammer up the concrete, or just run the new lines on top of the ground, you know, along the walls. And that worked for everything other than the sewer line, and there's no way to raise the sewer line above the floor level. And the pictures kind of show you there. We have several, well, basically all the water lines are rusted through over the years. And we suspect that's part of the issue with our sewer. It has rusted in too under the concrete. And without pretty well removing the office to repair it, there's no idea there. The final picture, I always talk to you about groundwater, and you can see that white is the salt that used to be behind the building, is saturated in the ground, and that's where the groundwater actually penetrates through the stone and comes into the office. And there used to be cracks in the concrete, and that groundwater would come up through the floor, and we had that epoxy coating put on the floor, which sealed it and did help that, but then it forced that same groundwater to go higher and through the side of the walls. And over the years, we've poured concrete on the outside of the building, we've dug ditches, we've added drains, and there's just a lot of groundwater in that little hole. The building was, you know, there was a dig out made, and the building was actually built down in the hole. But it's hard to describe how the water comes through, but that picture there pretty well tells the tale. The salt leaves the residue.
So have you ever got a price on how much the roof will cost us?
The last price, like we say, everything's went up 3 years ago. The roof, what they wanted to do was put a vinyl layer over top of it, and it was $30,000. But that was 3 years ago. And it was something that was their recommendation. It was like a matte material that you unrolled. And then at the seams, they like solder it together. But that was their recommendation instead of replacing it with metal.
Do you know where you strike the sewer at out there? Is it in front of the building or down the side?
When you go into the shop, the small walk-in shop door, that's where we put in a new line, because when we first had the sewer issues, they thought it was the outside line. And we replaced the line from the small shop door all the way down to Hanson Street. That's all new, because they ran a scope, and it's actually clay tile underneath the parking lot, and the clay tile is separated, so there's a new PVC pipe all the way down to Hanson Street. That didn't correct the situation.
So we need a major overhaul.
Yeah.
If we do it that way.
I understand the only way to repair the sewer line under the office is just to disassemble the office down to a pad and then jackhammer that pad.
You'd have to bust the floor out, the whole floor.
I mean, you gotta take out the walls of the whole office and bust the concrete out. And then again, the same lines we're talking about, you know, and in the same ground with all that salt, you can see the amount of, years ago, we kept the salt behind the building in a huge pile with a tarp over it, and a lot of that salt got away in the storms. So that ground's all saturated with salt, and the same lines to the fuel tanks are in that same ground. So I'm sure the fuel tank lines aren't a whole lot better.
That's just it. With this salt being stored out there above the fuel tanks, and if we put it back, we're gonna be looking at deterioration.
Yeah, the ground is definitely saturated. Yeah. We now have a building for the salt, and we keep the salt in the dry, but, you know, for 20-some years, it was just saturated with it. That's all. Something to think about.
It's all good news.
Yeah, I don't ever have much good news.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Owens? How are you this morning?
Good, how are you all? Good. Since you guys want my email, but, here's a hard copy of it. Also, in the email, I attached a list of the users in the county. I'm doing an audit, but it's not 100% complete, but it's 90-some percent. It's this is basically a contract to renew the service you asked for. We typically do it just on an annual renewal, and if anybody can cancel their service with a 60 60-day written notice.
And I did check yesterday, and we're paying the same prices we did. Everybody else wants to go up in price. Is there something wrong with you?
We talked about it a little bit, because your county is actually one of my out of my area, is one of my highest service hours. Partially because of the pictometry, some of that stuff that you get new photos every year, we have to install those on all the different computers and stuff.
So what you did?
We've tried to, we raised our prices once since we started doing GIS, and we spent a lot of time going around explaining to commissioners why we raised our price. So unless we really have to, we try not to, because it's a lot of explanation, a lot of questions get raised, and it's hard to explain to people all the different components of what we do with the website, the backing up of data, the servers that we have to maintain, and you know, all those different things that people don't think of when they think of our service.
For the ones who don't know, WTH does all the mapping for the county. And with that being said, you want to tell a little bit about your company and what all you do for the ones that don't know WTH?
We've been around since the mid-60s. The company was actually started as an engineering company, and it was started to do bridge inspections. After the first bridge failure that implemented the national bridge inspection, that's when the company started up. The current owner is Rex Jones. He bought the company a little over 20 years ago now. And a few years after he bought it, we basically got out of engineering and started doing mapping. We do mapping in over 70 counties in Indiana. In some department or form or another, we do a lot of utilities. We do a lot of parcels. I mean, that's what most people, when they think of GIS, they think of parcels. Well, GIS is a lot of different things. Anything you can put on a location and a map, you can put on GIS. You know, even where computers are in a building, electrical, those kind of things can be put into GIS. We service, I would say 4 states primarily, but I think we're in about 11 states. We do a lot of work in South Carolina, a lot of work in New Jersey, and a lot in Indiana and Illinois. Like I said, we've been doing this for about 20 years now. We do 3 primary segments of work. One is land information, so your parcels, your zoning, even things like septic, survey, section corners, those kind of things can all be put on the map, and displays made and attachments to those points. The second is infrastructure, so highway departments, roads, they're certified road miles. I provide a letter to them from the state every year, or every time they request it, really, as to what the state's actually currently paying for. You can also put bridges, culverts, even repairs, things like that. That's one of the things in utilities, which is also an infrastructure that we try to get people to do, is put where they make their leak repairs or sewer repairs, so that they can explain to the councils or mayors and so forth as to why they want to replace a line. You can start, it's a lot easier for people to see if you see all those points and add up all that money than it is just handing somebody a spreadsheet saying these are all the dates we worked on and this is how much we spent. And the third one is public safety. So we do a lot in the like sheriff's departments, ambulances. We do things like tracking the vehicles for the sheriff's department so they can display them better. When you pick up the phone and make a 911 call, we show the location of where that call is coming from, whether it's a house or a car or a cell phone. They even have the ability, as you're going down the road, to rebid the call that you've made in there, and to show your car moving down the road as you go. We even do EMA departments, things like that, where they have critical facilities, different things. We really don't do a lot of the work of actually placing points on the map and stuff. That's what we train the people in the county to do. When I worked at City of Annapolis many years ago, that was one of the problems with their GIS. You had to go to this GIS department, ask for data, and then they'd give it back, and it wouldn't be what you asked for, and it wouldn't have the right attributes and pieces of information in the data. And we decided that it's better to have the data maintained by the people that actually use it and need it. So we came up with a different model. Instead of having a GIS department, we have GIS spread throughout the departments and let each one of them contribute their pieces back to the whole. And found that it's worked fairly well. I mean, we do have issues at times with new people coming in, not understanding or not wanting to participate or do their GIS work that we need them to do to keep things up. But for the most part, we keep our software simple enough where we can train people and keep them going, and if not, we can usually find somebody else to do that work in the county, or we've actually even at times contracted with the counties to do their splits. We probably have 5 or 6 counties in Indiana where we actually do their splits for them because they really didn't have anybody there that was capable or wanted to do that work. That's a general overview, I guess. If you have any questions or other comments.
Paul, I have a question. Typically, you said you service about 70 counties in Indiana. Do you have one go-to person in each county who is kind of spearheads and make sure that all the information, whether it be assessor's office, surveyor, sheriff's department, whoever, that they're responsible in each county to make sure that everything is sent to you and documented so you can provide this service, or do you just deal with every individual?
That's why it costs us so much time. We deal with every individual typically. If we had one person, it'd probably make it a lot easier, but then it can become an issue if that person's not the one doing their job too. We do have some counties, like Brown County, they have a GIS coordinator, but he still doesn't get into some of the details of the work and understanding why you have to put address in a certain way sometimes, those kind of things. Or how to distribute the photos around the county, some different things that he's not real, I guess, educated about.
That's why I'd asked Paul and I've also asked some of our department heads to come in and talk to Paul to make sure that we're up to date on everything we need to be. Did you get a busy? Okay.
I mean, there's always improvements, like Desi's. Right now we have 2 different address layers. They did that so the city can maintain their own, but they really don't right now. The county puts the points on there. That's one of those things where I need to work with her sometime and combine both those layers into one. There's always changes like that are happening, or new survey monuments going out, section corners, those kind of things. It's a constantly evolving piece of software. I mean, it's just, it really, I would say in your county, it definitely changes every week.
I think we got, what, 74 units?
74 in county government, probably another 20 plus maybe in private utilities, school, different things that throughout the county.
Yep. And I think the last time this contract's been signed was back in 2000.
There's 2 different pieces in here. One is the web part, which was probably signed multiple years after that, maybe mid or late 2000s. And then the one that you're talking about is the desktop service agreement, and it was probably signed in 2000, 2001.
Is this the current contract to sign?
Service agreement, yes.
Motion to accept GIS 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Rick made a motion, Todd second, all in favor say aye. Aye, motion carried. Appreciate you coming down this morning.
No problem. All of you three have my email now, so if you need questions or anything, I'm usually better by phone, but, my phone number's on there too, so just give me a call and I can try to resolve any issues or problems you guys have.
So, Rick, I'm looking in the light. Did anybody from the surveyor come? No? Travis? Do you have anything for Paul?
I thought we were gonna do.
Yeah, they are. They're gonna be.
And I talked to Emily last week on stuff, so.
Okay.
One question I had, are all the units created equal? My understanding was some of them are editing units and some are just viewing units.
That's correct. When we first started, we had just editors, and you guys purchased quite a few of those. Since then, we've developed a viewer version, which costs less.
Right.
And so we have a mix of them throughout
Right, and
the town.
like the highway department, we have the viewer I can't edit. And like, I know we wanna add a small structure layer, so we need to see about getting that.
I don't know that that's right. I think you
That was-
probably do have one editor or more out there.
My last understanding that ours were just viewers and Desi had the editor, so if we needed to
No,
edit,
no,
unless it's
there-
been updated since then.
It's not just Desi has the editor. I can assure you 100% of that. There are approximately, it has on that list that I sent you guys, but there's probably over 50 editors.
No, I don't mean in the whole county, I mean at our office when Desi,
When you look at your map in the blue up at the top, if it says viewer up there, it's a viewer. If
Right.
it doesn't say viewer, it's an editor.
I know when Desi was in our office at the time, there was 3 computers right there. And at that time, Desi was the one that had the editor.
I'm almost sure that one of them's an editor. It's
It-
just you may not be authorized to edit layers, and the way we do that is only one computer can edit a layer.
Right,
So that if you were editing this, like center lines, you can't edit that because it's attached to addresses. The addresses and center lines have to match up of the roads. So what you would edit typically would be the road segmentation, culverts, things like that. And if you don't have an editor, I'll get you one, but I feel fairly confident that one is an editor.
last time I knew it wasn't, but it could have been updated since then.
And they can be turned down so that people don't mistakenly edit, even though they have an editor. I've had that happen where they go in and spend time changing an address, they synchronize, and then we overwrite their changes each time, because we only allow one person to upload those.
But you can come help us set up a layer
Oh, yeah.
for the small structure, and if it's not an editor, we can switch it over to an editor.
Yeah, I can swap license with a different one in the county. I just did that last week for one of the departments. I health department needed to edit, their locations of their food inspections, so I pulled in all their inspection locations, put a point on the map for each one of them, and then gave him back the layer with the ability to edit and change dates of when he inspected, that kind of thing.
You have to sign. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you much.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have the ordinance reestablishing the Cume Capital Development Fund.
That's what do this.
I'll make a motion that we reestablish Hume Capital Fund at the same rate as previous, the same taxing rate based on the renewal amendment there.
Take your time.
Got a motion?
Todd made a motion.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
I've got a couple agreements here for the Indian Housing and Community Development Authority. One's for a block grant, the other one is just extends the expiration date for their grants.
Water motion.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion that we accept the grant application.
Todd's made a motion.
I'll second.
Rick second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Sure it is.
One more. I've got a GIS limited use agreement with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. They're working with the city of Salem on a flood control project, so they have like access to maps.
Problem.
I don't have nothing. Yes, sir. Good motion to let the Army Corps of Engineers use them.
So moved.
Second.
Rick made a motion, Todd second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried.
If we do have an issue getting our GIS upgrades, Would you like for us to let you know?
Yeah, it'd be better.
We've had a few issues in the
We're not
past.
gonna be able to do anything, you might as well just call,
No, I'll call him first, but if he doesn't come, you want me to let you know? Okay.
So, one thing I failed, we have added some county roads extensions. Are they being updated on that map then?
Yeah, we send them to the state and they certify them, and then it goes on the state certified layer. That's something we can't edit,
Okay,
but like we've tried to get a small structure layer going,
right.
and he's explained thoroughly that we have viewer models, not editor models.
Okay.
And he knows that.
That's it. Dustin, you didn't have none. Anything else? President and council? Did you meet this month?
We did.
Did you have anything?
And we all had a meeting together.
Is that this month?
Yeah.
So do you meet next month?
No, we meet in, May.
May?
Then Thursday, the Economic Growth Partnership will be meeting here at 12 o'clock.
That being said, we need to recess till 11 o'clock for the construction meeting. Thank you.
Sitting back here, you're gonna get me in trouble.
No, I'm impressed. No, if you do talk into the microphone, yeah, it makes it easier to hear you too. So if you could, that would be great.
okay. How's it going, guys? Good. You can come on in if you want. I don't know who that is.
The chamber.
Looking for the chamber.
Hello, are you Wes?
Yes, sir.
Well, appreciate you guys ordering this nice weather.
Yeah, it's good for a change.
Makes it rough when you're working inside, though, that you want to be outside.
Yeah. You guys probably very fair Michigan, aren't you?
Oh, not quite.
Close. We're not gonna kill that car today. I don't think we need the truth, but it's going to serve the hell.
I am.
The only thing, what we can trace that on there for the fuel, is that 400 outs in college coming up.
Well, you got some time yet, so you're safe.
Water room, on be the north side, it's gonna kill that box there. And the only thing that,
guy up here, the white, that big, much
Well,
problem.
your service is right there.
If you've not figured it out.
Yeah, we traced them.
Kind of a mother, you know?
They got more than I have, yeah.
I didn't see nothing,
You do know this is his courthouse, right?
I didn't see nothing.
Just pass it by.
The one on the hallway there,
You guys doing a bunch of interior renovations?
I don't remember that.
Pulling up carpet on stuff too.
Yeah, a little bit at a time.
It's like volunteers, right, wants to,
Yeah, but that ain't gonna,
pull any.
the trace off the car, coming in the server room, to the wall from the wall room, and everything that you're plugged into goes to that first box. When we kill that box on the hallway and make that switch over, it's gonna kill the computer and the.
It's looking real good because
And
it's
possibly
kind of a
one of the
stress
original
reliever
ones.
for these girls, you know,
They are, and maybe a
Just get to
few on the
rip
first
that stuff
one,
out.
but we don't think it's gonna be your server.
Every carpet.
So you could be here,
today they have a
and
smile.
if it does, when they kill part of it, or kill your
How you doing?
there's no need for you to hang around, you can jet.
That other stuff.
You know what I'm saying?
There it is. Morning. Where you at? I thought you skipped out.
And he said, okay.
Hey, how you doing?
Possibly he could.
Doing well.
Yeah.
Good.
Brenda's gonna be here, he had to go. He said they knocked on it.
We're gonna resume the meeting.
You report. We're thinking it ain't gonna kill you, sir. So if you're here, and they're gonna do it exactly at 4 o'clock. When he shuts that off, if it's kill your server, it ain't need for you to have to hang around. Right.
Can I see?
You know, update on the last,
I'm just
month
touching
of
base.
progress. Since the last meeting.
Put your figure down, Brent.
Can
you hear me now?
I'll tell you what, I'll have Ronnie call me if they don't.
Okay, so, the past month, we have finished all the control wiring inside, outside, to all the units, all the indoor units are hung, all the outdoor units are set. Currently, 4 out of the 6 systems are under refrigerant, holding refrigerant until startup. Ceiling grid, tile installation is complete, with the exception of deep water.
I told them all.
Insulators are probably 95% complete, they've got some left they've got to finish up. Wire Electric is working today to make their final tie-ins to all the equipment. And then we talked earlier, they're gonna do their changeover today, this afternoon. And then we've started on some drywall finishing. 3 out of the 4 are, boarded up and finished, or will be finished probably by the end of the day. And then we'll have 1 more to do yet.
Did you get a chance to look at the borders?
I did. One of the recommendations from the manufacturer was to put like a magnet there in the corners to help hold that down. I won't do that. Okay, that's fine.
I tried that before, and over time, it don't work.
Okay.
What's the issue here?
The panels to match the center core that goes up next to the grill to make it all uniform.
Yeah.
The outside panels, it's, plastic, it's wavy. And I'd asked Nathan, to look at it.
Okay.
These are in the center of the, or sorry, the perimeter.
It's no big deal, I just,
Well, I mean, I wanna get you guys to do one, so we'll do whatever, but, I guess you just wanna nix those tiles that are there now.
So they're raising up? Well, it's just thin plastic, and it's nothing for support, so they're way in, you don't hit the corners right. I saw that in one of the offices, so I just called Nathan the other day and asked him to look at it before we went ahead any further, and I asked Howard, and, I mean, surely some kind of design with the backing that would be put on there.
Are you fine with keeping that same tile, just something to make it right, or do you want to get rid of that totally?
Well, without trying to cobble it up and use magnets or some other kind of a apparatus in the long run, might be just simple to get something different material, wouldn't it? Maybe?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
That's what we suggested. The only thing, the inside panels to the design of the tile itself, correct. I think the contour gives it more stable. Correct. Where the plain ones going to the outside, there's nothing there for support, and that's why I'm not an engineer, but I would either suggest something similar to this with the backing on it, or
They make these built like this, but with a paper face, a vinyl face, it looks just like the flimsy ones they're putting in. You know what I'm saying? The boards like these, the Chinese stick,
I mean, that's
they're
what I'm
paper,
saying.
they're a vinyl face, like they use above like delis and stuff like that. You get them 2x4s or 2x2 squares.
Why don't we get together after the meeting and go through some pictures, and I'll show you what
I'll get some, get a few different types together too, so you guys can pick out one for everyone.
I think it's fine.
So as far as next steps go, it sounds like after today or maybe later this week, permanent power will be available. With that being the next step, do you have an idea of when factory startup will start on these units?
Factory startup is currently scheduled for April 5th for all 6 units. The technician, Ryan, was here last week, or last month. He's out on vacation this weekend next, so there was no way to do a partial startup.
Okay. And what scope do you have left to get into startup besides, of course, getting power on?
We are working, so for system number 5, it's on its evacuation procedure, and so is number 6. They've both been pressure tested. They just need to be evacuated.
Okay.
Did the pressure test all okay?
There was one fitting on system number 5, but so we got that.
I noticed there was some armor lights that wasn't on some of the suction lines down there in the assessor's office.
Yeah, they've got to come back and finish it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a leak or.
Just they have to finish. They're not done.
Then the insulation that goes above the tile,
Correct. What about it?
when will that start going in?
It has.
Yes.
Basically, what's up there now is up. If you see ceiling grid or tile, there's insulation above it.
Good in there.
Has the main control board been set yet, the AC Smart board?
Yes.
So the initial controls programming, I'm assuming that'll be handled during factory startup. One thing I want to put out there, that will be a good opportunity typically for you guys to get in your initial programming, occupancy schedule, set point preferences and all that, just so that the control technician can walk you through that, make sure it's all set up appropriately. And then typically, the required owner training is performed around at the same time. Is that kind of the plan? So once a date is determined for that, of course, just need to be coordinated with, whoever you all want to have trained on. I know Tony and some others around here will probably want to get the rundown.
My guess is it's gonna be sometime, or I'd like to do it sometime later that week, or possibly the following, because they act like the startup is gonna take a couple days to complete, so.
So you're gonna start on the fifth?
Correct.
So then you're figuring on a few days after that, after 7?
Yes, approximately. I'm not gonna say exactly, but if you wanna keep your books open, maybe for the 7th or the 8th, end of that week.
Okay. All right, you can let us know when it gets closer. Okay.
And once the factory startup is completed, we will do our punch walkthrough. You know, each time I've been here, I've kind of been pointing out a couple of small items, but there's not much. It's going to be a pretty quick thing. It's going to be probably things like labels or miscellaneous cleanup like that. But once that's completed, I'd say sometime around mid-April, we'll do our official punch walkthrough so we can get that out of the way contractually, I guess you'd say.
So just clarification, we're gonna start them up on the 5th. We'll do a pre-walk, and then we're gonna do a walkthrough on,
Let's say the 12th or something like that. Depending on how startup goes, assuming it goes quick, once you all finish overtraining and kind of pick up any items you have there, we'll do a walk there and just kind of do an official punch list. But like I said, there'll probably be like 5 or 6 small items at most, I would say. And then kind of looking ahead to some closeout items, you know, I definitely want to make sure you guys have been maintaining any red lines or whatever you've taken during construction. Once those are completed, we'll get those turned into as-built drawings for you all to have. And then our specifications kind of lay out what all is required for the O&Ms and stuff like that, but it's pretty standard. You know, the final version of this was a handful of O&M booklets required, which would pretty much just be the VRF system. So I'd say at the next meeting, we can kind of work through some of that some more, but in case you're going to get started on it even now, there's a couple things to start looking at. That's all I had. Did you have anything else, Phil? I haven't had a chance to walk through it yet, so I didn't put eyes on it, but I'll check it out before I leave.
Tony, you have anything?
Not yet, not now, no.
Sounds good. A lot better than what's running one.
Don't need it yet.
So it'll be just in time for when it starts getting warmer.
Gonna come in right now.
Yeah, and it'll be good for the any heating season left when that rolls around too.
Looking good, and that's been, everybody seems to be real happy with everything, and hasn't had anybody really complaining, so it's always good.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, well, thank you guys, we try to look at this, so if we don't get any complaints, it must be good, so. Not our people.
Thank you.
And everybody's been really good to work with, so. Really, really good.
Glad to hear that. Anything else?
That being said, go back to the screwdrivers.
He's on you guys.
Yeah, no kidding.
Are we also very wet on that last pay application? Came through probably 2 weeks ago, if that's right. Okay,
It's all good.
awesome.
Anything else?
Okay,
I'm good.
adjourn.
Meeting, adjourned. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, I'll second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.